You've been eating healthy, you've been doing the spiritual practice, and yet that old wound still hasn't healed and is still exactly where it was, holding you back and keeping you small. In this video, you're going to learn exactly what it is that's making it so your system cannot heal. And it's not what you think. It's actually the healthy diet. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do in order to shift that pattern and move to a place of deeper healing. This is incredibly important because every single day that you stay stuck in the old pattern, that you stay stuck in those old patterns of diet that you thought that were helping you, is actually another day that the true you stays buried and you're unable to live a life of true peace, love, and joy. So thank you so much for joining today. We're going to get right into it here on the Call of the Heart. It's an incredibly nuanced topic, the topic of diet. There's so many options out there, so many different protocols we can follow to bring us deeper healing within our physical body. And it's so easy for us to get lost in all of that information and forget what's truly important. And what's truly important is the effects that it's having on our physical, mental, and emotional body. No matter what it is that we're eating, ultimately healing is about coming to more peace, into more internal resonance with a sense of calm within our beings. So when we're eating a diet, when we're focusing on a particular meal plan or way of eating, the first thing to notice is, how is this impacting me energetically? What is the resonance that eating this food group and in the way that I'm eating these sets of foods are impacting my experience of life? And this is something that is very rarely taught. In many of the diets that are, pushed on us, actually contain foods that have a very kind of rushing and Rajasic quality to them. Rajasic is a quality of mind from the yogic tradition that's more of a rushing, grasping, kind of like overactive, like you just had a couple cups of coffee. It's that type of energy. Whereas a tamasic energy is more slow and lethargic. And many of the diets that are out there are pushing us away from the tamasic, but they then launch us onto the other side towards a rajasic energy. And we want to avoid that as well. Really, what we want is the sattvic energy, the stable, the present, the strong, and the rooted. So, what we want to move towards is something, a diet that works for us, that generates that energy within. But if you think about the healthy diet that you've probably been following, I bet you it has lots of fruits, maybe some nuts, maybe some carbs in there that are moving you a little bit more towards that Rajasic energy. Because if you think about the act of eating nuts, like you grab them in your hand, you pop them into your mouth, they don't really fill you up too much. Same thing with a fruit. It's like you grab it with your hand, it's you can eat it on the go, you can be moving around. It's very easy to be in the energy of movement. But true healing, the healing you've been seeking, happens when there's deep presence. If we think about what healing actually is and how the mechanism of healing occurs, it's when you have deep presence and calm come over the being. The physical body relaxes, the mental body relaxes, the emotional body is able to open and feel safe. And the light of awareness is then able to bless your being. The spirit is able to come down and bless your being. And in this blessing, healing happens. So contractions, kinks in the hose, will have the freedom and the safety to release and to let go. And if you look at the pattern of eating that might arise with fruits and nuts and many carbs, these are activating the body in such a way that that rest never actually arrives, that this sense of peace never actually arrives. And what's funny is the food that brings that oftentimes is, the foods like fats and meats. The foods that really bring that sense of stability, that sense of resting, are often the ones that we're told to avoid on our healing journey. And I'm not here to promote any one diet in particular. What I am here to say is that we have to become conscious and become aware of how we are eating and the energy that's produced within us. And we can see here in the book of James, which we'll get in today to guide us in our reflection upon this, just how important it is to become aware of the physical body and the physical relationship in order to get the deeper healing within our hearts, because that's really the first step. If there's a kink in the hose at the physical level, the healing energy of the spirit is not able to come in and purify the heart, because this spirit is constantly cleaning up the mess that's in the physical body. So this also applies if we're eating something that might not be so healthy, right? It's not just the healthy foods that put us in this Rajasic energy, it's also the heavier ones that move us towards the tamasic. So as I mentioned, we're going to read from the book of James here in the Call of the Heart. As we always do, we'll reference a verse from the Bible that's going to guide us to understand this topic at a deeper level. And we go to the Bible not as doctrine, but rather as the greatest book on spiritual awakening and as a guide for us to come more into the presence of God within our own hearts and to allow the Spirit to move through us at a deeper level. So the book of James, chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. Therefore submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Amen. So here we see, the invitation from James right away. This is a letter that he's writing to those who are listening, and he's encouraging us to submit to God. And if we think of God as presence, as the field of awareness that is in all things, that has created all things and is made, and all things are made up of, submitting to God is really a submission to stillness, to presence, and to calm. It's allowing ourselves to relax and to fall into peace and to fall into our true essence. And then resist the devil and he will flee from you. So in this case, when we zoom in on diet, when we zoom in on the patterns of diet that might be keeping us from that presence, which is the number one ingredient required for the deeper healing, the presence. So when we look at the diet, the devil there would be anything that takes us out of that presence, anything that is consistently pulling us away. So it's very obvious, we know alcohol pulls us away. We can feel it intensely in our physical body. We know that drugs take us away. We know that eating a pizza takes us away. But so often we don't realize that, kind of like consistently snacking on fruits and nuts and maybe even some vegetables that you eat in a snacking energy, carrots with a little bit of a dip. If we're going to the fridge every hour throughout the day and we're staying in this energy of constantly fleeing from the experience of the moment through a little bit of nourishment, then we're actually never able to be present because we constantly have the input that is taking us away from presence and from peace. Even if these foods are healthy and even if on a physical level they might offer some vitamins and nutrients that the body needs, on an energetic and emotional level, they're taking us out of the here and now. So the first step is to recognize this, to become present with what your common eating patterns are and what you're experiencing, and noticing that it's going to take some resistance. The first invitation from James here is to resist that old pattern once we notice it. Then it's cleanse your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts. So let's look at the breakdown of these words here. So first step, he says, cleanse your hands. So after we've noticed the pattern of the way we relate to food with the physical body, the next thing we need to do is cleanse our hands of that pattern. And he doesn't say to, cleanse, to purify the heart first. That comes after. So cleansing the hands, addressing the physical kinks in the hose before we look towards the mental level or the level of the emotion in the heart, is going to allow us to have that spaciousness and that freedom. So literally taking our hands away from the common things we're grasping at, the common things we're grabbing at, and the common things we're soothing ourselves with, and allowing ourselves to then flip the pattern of sin that we've been stuck in. And sin here is literally translated as to miss. And what are we missing? We're missing presence. So it's very closely related to the devil here, where we're turning away from the presence of God, and that is the sin. It's not a judgment of us as being bad. It's a recognition that we have forgotten our true nature and our true presence, and that the act of eating these foods that we've been using to self-soothe is what's actually the sin in this case, because it's what's taking us out of presence with God. So cleanse your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts. And finally, we have this invitation, the payoff of the change in the diet, of the awareness that you've brought to your eating patterns, is the purification of your heart, is the healing you've been looking for. So that is what waits. That's what awaits you. It takes a little bit of work. It takes deep awareness and deep presence to notice the patterns that are arising, to notice your energetic state when you're eating those foods, and then ultimately to cleanse your hands. But the payoff is the purification of your heart, the purification of your soul, and the healing of the physical, mental, and emotional layers of your being, so that presence, that peace, and that a connection with God prevail. So this is the invitation today. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for doing the work. And if you've enjoyed this video, if it's given you some awareness of how you can bring a deeper healing to your being and greater spiritual growth, then please do subscribe. I have videos like this coming every single week. And please don't hesitate to share with a friend who might be going through something similar or you think would benefit from this experience. I am Xander Sage, your host here on the Call of the Heart. Many blessings. May you have a wonderful day. Much love.